We are talking about solving nonlinear systems and solving quadratic inequalities. And we want to solve systems of nonlinear equations. So here we have solve using substitution or elimination with no calculator. And in this example, we're going to use elimination. So we have the coefficient of 2 and 1, coefficient of -5 and 2, and a coefficient of -1 and +1. So in this case, if we use elimination, the y's will cancel each other out, and then we'll just be left with a quadratic equation. So if we add these, because this is negative and this is positive, they're going to cancel each other out. So 2x squared plus 1x squared is going to be 3x squared, and -5x plus 2x is going to be -3x. The y's cancel each other out, and then that's equal to -2. Now we have a quadratic equation, and anytime we have a quadratic equation, we want one side to be equal to 0, so we have to get this side equal to 0. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides of the equation, and then we get 3x squared minus 3x plus 2, and that is equal to 0. Now that we have it in the quadratic equation, we have to decide how we want to solve this. We could solve by factoring. This is not factorable. We could solve by taking the square root. However, we have this linear term in the middle, so that would be tough to do. So the other option that we're left with is we could use the quadratic formula. And in the quadratic formula, we know that we have x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times ac, all divided by 2. So those are the things that are never going to change. And then we just have to identify what a, b, and c are. So we have -b plus or minus b squared, so we have 2 b's. And then we're going to say b squared minus 4 times a divided by 2a, and then we have a c also there. So from our formula here, we should be able to identify those things. So a is the lead coefficient, which in this case a is equal to 3. B is equal to -3, and C is equal to 2. So we got these values from that part right there. And now we can substitute those values in, and we can go through the process to figure this out. So we have x equals negative plus or minus, we're going to have b squared minus 4 and then I'm going to substitute the values in. So b, this is a negative already, and there's a negative, so that's why I like to put the parentheses there so I don't forget negatives there. And the parentheses is important here, especially if it's a negative, because we want to square the negative and the 3. And then the a is going in next to the 4, so we have 4 times 3 and 2 times 3, and then the c value is at the end here. And then we can start to simplify. And so negative times a negative, that is a positive. Still have the plus or minus. -3 squared is going to be 9. And -4 times 3 is -12 times 2 is -24. And we're going to take the square root of that, and that's all divided by 6. And then when we do what's underneath the radical, we find the discriminant here, we get x equals 3 plus or minus 9 minus 24 is negative 15. And that's negative 15. And we still have 6 in the denominator. And at this point, we see that in the discriminant, we have a negative 15. And so we know that there are no real solutions. Because we have a negative under the radical. So once we get to this point, we can say no real solutions, and that will be, and if we have no real solutions, what that means is these two parabolas do not intersect.